Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 6:45 council work session. Agenda review. Does anybody have anything on it?
I don't have anything to add, no.
Had no changes.
None.
Council discussion.
I've got one thing.
Go ahead, John.
I'd like to remind everybody that the town of Sunset Beach and the Committee to Honor American Veterans will be co-hosting the Veterans Day ceremony Monday, November 11th at 1 p.m. in the Sunset Beach Town Park. Everybody is welcome and encouraged to come. Thank you.
I would just like to say that Chief Claymore did a great job with the trunk or treat. And this seems to be a town ritual, which is very nice.
Does anyone have anything else?
Hi, I'm going to say a little more about the trunk or treat. Had upwards of 500 children there. It was really an amazing evening. So I'm going to thank our police, fire, and public works department. I want to thank the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office and the Griswold Fire Department, the town's nonprofits, the Turtle Watch, Sunset Vision, the Old Bridge Historical Society, and two of our local businesses, Mavericks Point and Blue. I can't believe there was candy left over, but there were gobs of it.
Anyone have anything else? Okay. Well, we have to wait till 7 o'clock, so carry on.
Take 10.
Yeah, we'll take a quick recess here.
Yes. It is. It's his hair.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got like 10 minutes.
We got like 10 minutes.
You watch. Oh, interesting.
On the agenda.
No. He's not here for that.
What is he doing?
He's here specifically for one thing, that's the various conversations that Councilwoman Harris when she asked me what the language was going to be if y'all review it first. And I wanted to just tell y'all what that language was going to be. And if y'all decide to change some of it, you know, have to make that amendment and go.
Public comment is 3 minutes and there's no back and forth.
No, they meant during the actual agenda item.
Oh, okay.
But no, he's not here in a presentation capacity. He's here to answer questions for y'all.
Okay. So he isn't comfortable voting on the last one.
Only for the master question.
Well, you know, that's
I know, but it's a technical expertise thing, not a presentation.
so this is, he's not gonna speak into or
Not until he's asked.
under the variance.
Yeah.
Right. Right, no. We're not going back and forth, so we don't need to engage anybody. Yeah.
Hey, oops, sorry, excuse me. You're about to knock the flag off. Lisa told me to tell you that.
You know, any approvals to do anything or anything.
It doesn't look steady at
All
all.
the way down.
Yeah, but usually have
Huh?
It's all the way down there.
recommendations for change.
No, it doesn't. It looks shaky at the top.
I thought they were in there.
The mayor's fault.
I don't, he
The
just
mayor's
talked more.
fault.
Yeah, but, yeah, that's,
Huh?
yeah, that was in there. I've got that, I agree with the smaller numbers.
Higher. I can't
but I
pronounce
don't
his name.
want to,
I never could. I would say Hiram.
I don't want to,
Hey Lisa, the only thing I didn't ask Greg is when it's going to be signed over to Rhode Island? Does it ever? The land, the 20, east of West End. When is it going to switch to Rhode Island?
It's part of this deal.
Is that all part of the deal? So when that
I mean, I don't.
they sell it,
They said,
that deed will go to Rhode Island.
cancel
That's
the
the
last
Sunset
August
Beach
meeting and didn't do it in June. I don't like that.
management. Okay.
Because August, we still have a good bit of tourists
good.
coming up. And
Thank goodness.
26 is the week before holiday week. June 17th and 24th. Yeah, that would be okay.
Yeah.
It gives us a week after our golf tournament. I agree not going into September. I would suggest using August 26th as the rain date. Which is empty right now.
Yeah.
Your full house.
Huh?
Your full house.
Yeah. Worried about Lou. She wasn't feeling good today.
What's the matter with her?
I don't know.
She asked me to take Richard's picture on Facebook.
She what?
There's an old picture of Richard and her both from event with my T-shirt.
Oh,
on.
really?
But I didn't put that on there. You know how Facebook every once in a while in memory of 4 years ago?
Yeah.
They did it. I didn't do it. Because you know Richard doesn't like to be.
Right, he does.
So I didn't do it. I tried to explain that to her. She didn't understand how that works. And then since then I've deleted it.
Yeah.
Somebody turn that air on, I can tell you that.
We did.
My God,
We did.
I need to quilt.
You can borrow my vest.
I wore the long sleeve shirt. It's gonna be cold in here.
You and Charlie.
We did it from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock this time.
That was good.
I think it looks pretty good, as long as we get the word out to everybody that's when it is, especially the vendors. Yeah.
Well, was ever
Two motions from closed session.
We ought to try to get more vendors.
Good, that's a good idea.
I missed that.
I think it's at the end.
just a guess what? Wi-Fi password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
He doesn't give a price, he doesn't give a 25. He just says alternatives could be lower. $650 means that we had 13 vendors for 10 events.
I don't know. I had,
Open shirt.
That would mean we would need to get
I already got a
basically 26 vendors
rotator.
or more
No,
to,
we had shoulder replacement, reverse shoulder replacement.
Really?
Yeah.
total.
Over there.
We need to get at least 3 per event to come up to around $650 or $700.
Yeah, I want to stop
That's
by
kinda
and see her
simple.
because Rich and
We
Joey,
have,
they were, Joey didn't like each other. But no, don't go upstairs because it's not a nice man right now.
I'm so sorry.
season package, 14 events.
I know, Mark.
It's been hard, I'll tell you.
I know.
They come up and do $250 for that. and some 14 events.
Right, every day.
Yep.
Then if we're gonna do less, then do something either $50
One of our friends sent us a box and showed us pictures today.
you know, a different price.
you know, last year, you know, this is not this past year, the year before.
That box is 658 and a half. Mine says 659.
I think we should make room up here for Lisa. Right here.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I can swap with her.
Yeah.
If he's 14 events, $25. Yes, a flat fee and he's not. Then if somebody wants to come, they can do $50. I mean, it's something to entice them a little bit. We still get a little bit in cost, because we're still talking.
It's a minute off.
That's the 7th. We're ready.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November 4th Town Hall Council meeting. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Does any member of the council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to any item on the agenda? And if so, please state so at this time.
I do not.
No.
I do not.
I do not.
No.
Okay, we have two motions from the closed session. If someone would like to make the first motion.
Yes, I would. I move that we authorize Mayor Van Wormer and, as necessary, our town attorney to sign and execute all documents and pleadings necessary to complete that certain memorandum of settlement agreement dated November the 21st, 2017, including, without limitation, the mayor's execution of the town's non-warranty deed conveying land formerly and generally known as Sunset Beach West to the state of North Carolina for perpetual and permanent conservation consistent with the Bird Island Coastal Reserve, the no leases agreement and the owner affidavit and agreement, and that any and all of said documents be held in trust by the town's attorney and not released until such time as the town's attorney is satisfied that all conditions to close by all parties have been satisfied and the closing is ready to proceed.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, this has taken a number of years. In fact, it started 6 years ago when Mad Inlet, or the inlet designation, was removed. And at that time, a number of taxpayers went up to the CRC, voiced their complaint, but the matter was not changed. There are a number of people that need to be thanked, and I'd like to say blessed, for their efforts regarding this, because this was a major victory for the taxpayers of Sunset Beach, the visitors of Sunset Beach, for something for us to enjoy, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. And there are a number of people that I think the public should know that contributed to this. Former attorney Mike Eisenberg. Mike demonstrated his legal knowledge and, more importantly, his principles. Attorney Jeff Geisler of the Southern Environmental Law Center and Jan Harris for their thorough research, which questioned the ownership of Mad Inlet. The Brunswick Beacon, who published the question that raised the issue that began this journey for the past 4 years. Again, Ms. Jan Harris and Ruth Reynolds that sounded the alarm by gathering signatures from citizens and guests totaling 4,200. Dr. Braxton Davis, the head of CAMA, who immediately revoked the camera permit when he discovered his staff's error. The Bird Island Preservation Society, the Sunset Beach Taxpayers Association, Attorney Grady Richardson for his successful efforts, and lastly, the North Carolina taxpayers and the state officials that funded the purchase for all of us to enjoy. Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize Hiram to sign the offer to purchase for the property located at 704 Sunset Boulevard North in the amount of $340,000 and to contract with Bosley? No. Baxley and Smithwick, attorneys at law, to perform the title search and to handle the closing for said property.
Second.
Discussion?
This-
Just one thing, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank former Councilor Len Steiner for just simply shaking the tree, and I thank you, Len.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a minutes for approval. October 7th minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the October 7th regular meeting minutes. October 15th, 2019, second regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is the public comments period on agenda items only, and please limit it to 3 minutes. We have a lot of people here tonight. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'm John Farrell. I live at 624 Oyster Bay Drive. I came in late. I missed the agenda. I assume the CAMA permit is still on the agenda.
Yes, John.
As a practical comment I would like to make, because the permit is not effective and cannot be acted upon until the core permit is issued, I question if it wouldn't be prudent to request an extension in time for the possible appeal of the permit or the expiration of the permit until the core permit is issued, because that could take a long time. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else?
Hi, Katie Hovermill, 1429 Bay Street, Sunset Beach, and I'm speaking to the variance request on the dredging permit, the variance request which was referred to in the October 7th, first referred to in the October 7th meeting. I'm personally unclear as to why this variance request to dredge into a 5-foot depth is necessary. I'm wondering if requesting this variance is wise, because we already have an approved permit. It's in the packet for tonight. This variance will probably break a CAMA ruling, and as it is, we have a permit. Neither side that was on either side of the dredging got everything they wanted, but each side got something. The request for a variance could take considerable amount of time, maybe 6 months to a year, for that request to go through. And I'm wondering, will that would jeopardize the grant that we have? Because the grant is for a year, I believe, and we're already 6 months into the process. So is it possible that we could lose that grant money? That dredging to 5 feet is asking for more than we've ever dredged before. In 2002, we dredged to a 2-foot depth below mean low tide. It will mean that it will take a lot more money and a lot more time. If we go to 5 feet, then that's 2.5 times more material than the 2 feet dredging material. In the permit, it's stated that the roads must be returned to the condition they were before the project starts. So I'm thinking all these trucks going down the road carrying the material, there's going to be 2.5 times more visits with trucks and more wear and tear on the road. And who's going to pay for that? I think the permit applicant is the one, the town is going to be responsible for bringing the roads back. I'm wondering if that is the case or not. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Neil Gilbert, and I live at 1150 Seabourn Way in Cape Side. I was on the original Environmental Resource Committee. I'm the co-founder and past president of the Brunswick Environmental Action Team. And I taught marine biology and environmental science for over 30 years. I was going to say a heck of a lot more I had prepared, but I'm going to echo what Mr. Farrell and Mrs. Habermel said. We need to delay any action on the variance. I think it would be very unwise. Two things I want to clarify that I've been reading in letters to the editor in the Brunswick Beacon. One, I've heard people say that there's only a small number of people who are against dredging, and maybe it's just a small number that you keep on hearing from over and over again, but I could tell you 95% of the people in my neighborhood in Cape Side are totally against it. But you don't hear from them. But that's a misstatement, whoever said that or wrote that. I think the majority of these people in this town are against dredging. And two, I read something about the only people that care about or that are opposed to dredging is they're worried about the size of the boats, like being yachts. I have never heard that before, so that's not true. I'm against dredging because I believe in our wetlands and our estuaries. That's what makes Sunset Beach great, and we want to keep our natural waterways the way they are. Our estuaries are nature's sponges. They are our filtration plants. They protect us from storms. We don't want to mess with them. I think you got your permit that you want. Stick with it, because I have a feeling if you go any deeper, there will be. This started back in 2016. I was there when it started. And I can't believe we're still talking about that. It's all because the board at that time did not accept this Environmental Resource Commission's report. Yes, that's true. So thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Tom Goodman. I live at 1080 Seabourn Way, Cape Side up on the mainland. I'm speaking here tonight against the dredging project in general. And basically, it's a risk-reward analysis. There are two types of risk presented here. One is the environmental risk, and I don't pretend to be a scientist, but I do believe in science. I believe that the Earth is round. I believe that the Earth orbits the sun, and I believe that smoking causes cancer. So I do believe in science. And the people who are scientists have some serious concerns about this. But I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about is the financial cost of this. There's a financial risk to this that maybe the grant covers it all, maybe it doesn't. The question becomes then what happens next time? And for the vast majority of people who live in Sunset Beach, particularly those who live on the mainland, there's no benefit at all. All we have is financial risk of having to come back and dredge part of the intercoastal where only a handful of very wealthy people who have very big boats that I can't afford to buy are going to benefit. And I just don't see that the local taxpayer really sees much benefit in this at all. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Sue Jensen. I live at 1403 Bay Street. I would just like to echo the last three speakers. I have lived at Sunset for 20 years and know a lot of my neighbors, and I do not know anyone who's in favor of this dredging. I also just would like to add to that, I lived in Florida for 26 years before I moved here. I lived on a small canal, and I lived on a big canal. from the beaches, you just sank down in them. No way would you take a bicycle. You couldn't even build sandcastles. So I'm not speaking of that from studying it and researching it. I'm speaking of it from my own personal experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Karen Wishon. I live at 1511 North Shore Drive. And I just want to say that there are viewpoints on both sides of this. Sometimes I feel like people that live on the east end of the island have been made out to be the devil. And it's just not true. I'm an environmentalist as much as the rest of the, concerned citizens here are. We've had property since 1997 at Sunset Beach. First on sailfish on a canal. We've been through a dredging before, and I realize the variance is necessary in order that we might not have to dredge to deep water. And I feel like 17 years since the last dredging is the reason that so much sand has built up. We have a 22-foot boat, not a yacht by any means. We like to go fishing and just go out in the intercoastal. And it's become increasingly difficult, especially the last couple of years. No longer are we even 2 hours on either side of high tide. I just feel like there are two sides to this issue. It is definitely something that I feel like needs to be done, and I feel like the town council needs to facilitate this. We hired Moffett and Nichols to study this. We have state agencies looking into this, and I look to their guidance and yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Stuart Maurer. I live at 1313 North Shore Drive. I wanted the dredging to happen. I am all for the 5 foot, not the 2 foot. We do 2 feet, we're gonna have to be doing this again and again and again. We, the people on the water, want this since I can't even use my boat at certain times. I have gotten stuck right at the mouth of the main canal several times because it's not dredged. I retired and moved to Sunset Beach for the simple reason that I could go fishing at any time. I don't see any reason why the people that don't go, that live on the water, have anything to say about what goes on with the dredging. They're not paying for it. The people on the water are paying for it. The town's not paying for it. And since they have nothing to say about it, unless the town passes all this tax on to the people of all of Sunset Beach, why should they even have anything to say about what's going on? We need to get the variance to get done because we should move forward with it right away. Time is getting very short, and we need this to be done relatively quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Merritt?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Gary Merritt, 646 Orchard Bay Drive. I'd like to address the variance request also. I received a letter from Greg Bodman of the DENR that said they were issuing a condition permit. It's the same permit that everyone else has seen for the project. Their conditions, to me, look very fair. I thought they did a good job of bouncing the ball and coming up with a solution that would be equitable for voters as well as environmentalists and everyone involved. They also mentioned concerns of the Army Corps of Engineers. And those are all legitimate, and they should be followed. The request of variance would only kick the can further down the road. It'll also make the project even more expensive. After obtaining the necessary authorizations or approvals from the Army Corps of Engineers, the town council should listen to the DENR, state experts, as well as the scientists and experts identified in 2016 by the ERC report, and instruct them and him to go ahead with the plan to resolve the oyster relocation, sand placement conditions in the existing permit and get the permit started. That way the project could possibly be completed by the fall and winter of 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Is that mic working? Could you, Gary, could you just tap it a couple times?
Nope.
No,
Switch is on top,
it should
Towards you.
move upwards towards you.
towards you.
It was working. Yeah,
There you go.
It just wasn't quite set.
No, that was-
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Larry, pull
Raise the
the,
speaker up so you're close to it, please.
It's on.
yes. Hello?
There you go, that worked. But
I'm Larry
You got to be closer to it, though.
I am Larry Booth. Hello?
Turned on.
That's on.
No, it keeps, it's cutting in and out. Cinda. 1 second, sir, we get you good.
All right, Larry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Larry Booth. This is my wife, Vicki Booth. We own a house at 1703 Canal here in Sunset Beach. We own Mavericks Java. We've had it since 2011 here on the not on the island, on the mainland, and we have Mavericks Point. So I'd like to thank anybody that's been there to enjoy the coffee or the beer. I'm concerned about the dredging not happening or only doing 2 feet. I think the best bang for the buck, because it will fill in again. It's just been 17 years since we dredged it before. So the best bang for the buck would be move to a depth of 5 feet. And I'd agree with the gentleman before me, a couple before me. So, and I think it's our duty as a town to use the money that's granted by the grant the town obtained. Thank you for doing that. And the property owners adjacent to the water are paying for it. So it's my opinion that that I don't think anybody else is paying for it. Is that the way I understand it? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So maybe somebody who's previously talking said they're going to pay for it. So I would disagree with that. But, and I don't think we should worry about how big somebody's boat is. If somebody has a bigger boat than I do, more power to them. It's like if I have somebody has more money than I can earn, I said, that's great. Maybe we all have a chance to get there someday. I have a boat, and it's got a draft of 3.5 feet. And it's a sailboat. I bought it from the state of North Carolina. And I get stuck every time I go out almost, unless it's high tide. I've been stuck at coming in Jinks Creek. Been stuck trying to go to Krabby Odd Waters. So the more sand that we can move, then the longer it's going to last before we have to dredge again. So I'm a proponent to dredge to the depth of 5 feet and get the best bang for the buck. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barbara Kuczynski-Gilbert. Okay. I live at 1150 Seabourn Way. I am very, very concerned about the proposed variance. I am opposed to the variance. I am not opposed to people owning boats. I don't care what size somebody's boat is. Doesn't matter to me at all. I do care about the environment. I do care about finances. I think that they both play a part. I think that we have to be especially careful of what is being proposed that we do not endanger any possible nurseries. I know that there's disagreement about that. I happen to go with the side of the environmentalists and the ERC. I have read both sides. I have looked at this very carefully, especially since I am not a scientist, so I did take the time to read all of it. I can't find one good reason why we need to dredge to 5 feet when right now we can dredge to 2 feet. It's something that nobody's really happy about because each side had to give a bit. It seems to me that that's where we should stand so we do not harm the environment. And contrary to what some believe, I believe that the town does pay part of this. And quite frankly, any grants that come from taxpayer money. It's not free money that's out there. Our taxes went to pay for that as well. So I am opposed to the variance. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we're just a town, I'm Vicki Booth. We live on 1703 Canal Drive, which is on the bay. We've been coming and staying on the bay since 1975. Every 4th of July for 20 years, my family gathered there, and the last time they were there in like 1996, there were about 50 of them. They live all over the United States. They love Sunset Beach. And so I'd really like to speak for all the vacationers that come that aren't here tonight, and all the people that come to rent our house that love that bay full of water, that like to put their boats on our dock, that like to play out in the water. We used to windsurf and do a lot of water things, but with the water line going down so low, it's been very difficult. And if you only dredge 2 feet, it's not enough. It's not enough money, enough bang for the buck, as Larry said. But also, we need to, we're thinking about costs, but think about how much money all those vacationers bring to this town and how much it's helped this town to be what it is. And we don't want to go backward. We need to go forward. And our businesses depend on this too. So I am selfish as I appeal to this, because people come after they've been on the beach and they've been out in the water and they eat and they drink and they have a great time. They come to the coffee shop when they arrive, they come to the coffee shop when they leave. And so we just celebrate all of that and we love it. And we don't want anything to endanger that for the visitors and for the vacationers. And for the people, we matter too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, that'll conclude the discussion.
Can I say one last thing? The boat that I had cost me $2,000. So it's not that I'm rich or anything. It's just a small sailboat, 24 foot, and it can't get through the water. I don't think you should hold it against people that have a lifeboat. Thank you.
Okay, next up is the town administrator's report.
Yes, sir. We've been working on an ADA transition plan over the last 2 months, Americans Disability Act. We're required to update a few policies and a few items for the town, just to have a plan in place for those updates. So as we move forward in budgeting and all that, we can make a few upgrades to our facilities to make them more accessible. But in that process, there's also the way to make our services more accessible to people either with disabilities or just honestly take this opportunity to take it for everybody. So I've posted in Town Hall and we posted on the website today a notice seeking public input, because staff can do a good job of figuring out what our infrastructure needs are from a technical perspective, but we'd like to hear from the citizens and our visitors and anyone just have expertise or just personal experiences, that if you feel there's an issue preventing yourself, individuals, or groups from participating in our government, from having access to our facilities, our park, or the beach, or just have some ideas on accessibility in general, you can email me or send it in writing to the town hall, drop it off in writing to one of the front desks. We'll be taking this public input specifically for this until the middle of December 18th. But this is put together a transition plan that we have to have now by law and put together to receive federal funds. Over the next few years, it has to be in writing. We already currently do a lot of things. We have abilities for people to communicate with us. We have abilities, we've done ramps, we've upgraded bathrooms, things like that. But I'm looking for, if you have a hard time, talking to us, we don't have a person to sign language on staff. We do have headphones available for hard hearing people. We also can, have computers, tablets, things like that. But just any ideas that the public may have that make the ability to participate, we're interested in hearing. So those notices are out. And feel free, if anybody wants to drop by and talk to me about it too, just give me a call. Staff will be visiting Jaguars later tomorrow to check on the progress of any infrastructure developments. We'll have a report to the attorney and y'all hopefully at the next meeting. Spoke with Green for Life, Waste Industries about the trash collection. If y'all still want them to come next time and talk, they're willing. However, they've already decided that they'll be moving the island pickup back to Wednesdays, including recycling. They would unify this for the entire town, so it's not like the mainland's going to move to Thursday. Of course, in the summertime, recycling will go to Saturday, but everything will be collected on every week at the same time. Recycling on the island is collected at the same time. Recycling will be done on mainland. It's going to be a week. We haven't developed any calendars yet because we've been waiting for this. They're hoping to implement this in the middle of January, but they said that's still a soft date to get implemented, so it may be a little bit later. It could be earlier. But we're looking definitely before the next tourist season. It'll be Wednesdays again on the island. So just let me know if y'all still want to have Green for Life.
I don't feel that we need the gentleman to come now. If they're going to move it back to Wednesday, that was the whole point.
I agree with Charlie. The issues was Wednesday and Thursday. Since they resolved that issue, I don't think it needs to come.
All right.
Sounds like they listened to us
Well,
and the public.
we had several conversations quite a bit often on the subject. So they've gone above and beyond, I think, trying to find a way to work it out with us. I don't know what they had to do on the other end to make up the difference. So, but I really appreciate them doing that. So, also, some people have noticed that the TV station's back to being active. Even though we asked ATMC to hold off till we were able to interface with it better, for the time being, since our computers don't really communicate with our hardware at ATMC, we're having to remote into Lisa's old computer that's been replaced for a year now, and until we can find a better solution. So we've taken all the time-sensitive information off, outdated material, but we will not be posting anything anytime soon until we can work out a better solution than having to basically jump to another computer to log into that and come back forth. It's just not user-friendly at this time, really time-consuming. So, but the TV station's back to being active with some things. If we improve it, we'll find a better way to utilize it. But at this time, it's just going to be rip currents and what our services are. And that's all I've got, unless you have questions.
Was there any development on Twin Lakes, the question about the,
I've sent a letter to
water
the property
plants?
owners and have not heard back yet. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I don't know how that's handled, if it's a family member or not. The LLC goes to a residential address, so. But I'm hoping to hear something in the next week or so.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up would be Tara, Finance.
You have the finance report in front of you. The only thing I have on top of that is that the audit was submitted approximately a week early. We submitted the audit. I haven't heard anything back from the LGC yet, that's a good thing that they didn't kick it back. So I'm just waiting for an email from them on if there's any further action we need to take with the audit. Are there any questions on the finance report?
Tara, I only have one. I was struck by the 135,000 miscellaneous income, and I was just curious what the miscellaneous income of that amount was.
That was the a reimbursement from FEMA that
Oh,
came
okay.
in from last year.
Got it.
So,
Thank you.
are there any other questions?
Tara, how much are we claiming on taxation? How much do we think we're gonna get, 98%, or? I know we had an issue last year, the other department head.
As far as like what, we budgeted
Yes.
at 96%, but
96.
we should get around 98. It looks like it's a draft audit, so it's not final numbers, but it looks like our collection rate is improving. So we're close to 99%, but it's
Good.
still 98 point something. But you always want to be conservative on it because
Right.
it could change.
What's the percentage, like 1% or 2%? What's that add up to money-wise?
I can't tell you right off the top of my head. I don't have that in front of me, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Stormwater Department, John?
Good evening. We've done quite a bit of work on Shoreline Drive East of recent. We replaced a catch basin that needed to be replaced that was failing, and also repaired a culvert pipe on Shoreline Drive East near Waterway, just in the past week or two. We also conducted our pre-construction meeting for the 32nd Street outfall, waiting on materials to start that job up. And hopefully they were scheduled to arrive this week, so we'll be able to get started on that. We also, Thursday, we're hoping to get started on Rice Mill Creek, the replacement of those culvert pipes over there. They're actually staged on site over there as well as the equipment, so that should be Thursday. And then the contractor doing that work will roll from there over to 28th Street on the beach and Azalea to do that work as well. And we've continuing to work on cleaning the catch basins on the beach side near 3rd and 4th Street. We'll be doing a lot more of that. I'm hoping to get these 4 larger projects done here in the next 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then we'll work mainly on using the vac truck and the camera, trying to get all the catch basins and pipes clean. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
How is the money holding up for you?
I was able to project out an end to the financing. I think that based on what we have on the list right now, we'll exhaust what we have probably February. And what I would like to do is to come back after first of the year, and because we're going to have to reprioritize some of the projects that need to be done, and maybe postpone 1 or 2, but come back after the first of the year and present to council kind of where we are, and maybe look at doing some engineering on some of the projects, but just make some proposals about maybe where we can go from there. But I really need to focus, as you might guess, on using that vac truck. We need to justify ownership of that machine and make sure we use it quite a bit this winter. So, but I'll provide an overview after the first of the year.
Thank you.
John, are we gonna find a permanent place to put that vac truck?
It's in a great location right now.
Paul's not too happy with it.
But
Can we add a structure to where Dustin's area is to add?
No, sir. No,
No?
sir. It's just,
There's no more room there.
yeah, we're full.
It's just out of space.
Okay,
But it's out of the elements right now, which is good. So, thank you.
good,
Thank you,
thanks, John.
John. Chief Paul?
Good evening. Everybody's noticed the time change, so I have to remind everybody to change their smoke alarms, check their smoke alarm batteries. If you need help, you can call the firehouse, and the crews will certainly come assist you if you need help. That's anybody in the town or the fire district. Also, the crews, we've had quite a few public events, different fire prevention and community risk induction activities. The crews have been out the last month, and now going into November, we're ramping up a whole lot of training. We're doing some engine company training today and tomorrow, some evaluation strategies training for company officers and some of the senior firefighters. We'll be doing some live fire training coming up, and we also have an acquired structure to do some more training throughout November. So we're in good shape, and you'll see the crews out and about and on the move. So I don't have anything else unless you have questions.
Thank you, Paul.
Nothing.
Thank you, Paul. Chief?
Good evening. I appreciate both of the councilmen recognizing our efforts at Trunk or Treat. I think it was a good time by anybody that was there. The kids especially loved it. And for every little one that comes, there's at least one big one that comes and gives them an opportunity to interact with the police, the fire, public works, and of course our nonprofits and some of our local business partners. So it really enhances the relationship of Sunset Beach personnel, Sunset Beach business owners, and the nonprofits with the bigs and the littles that were there. So I plan on doing it next year. We just recently took delivery of 10 WatchGuard body cameras and a wireless transfer station that excuse me, I applied for a grant in 2017 for FY18. It was funded in FY19, so we finally got that delivered. I got a copy of the check where we paid for that. I'll be submitting for reimbursement here hopefully this week, and that's a 100% funded grant. There's no out-of-pocket for Sunset Beach for that project. It was just over $14,000, I believe. Other than that, excuse me, I'll throw in a PSA because I don't want to be outdone by the fire department. It's getting darker earlier, so be sure that you make sure you do a walk around your car. Make sure your headlights are functional, your taillights are functional, and as the holidays approach, if we're going anywhere, make sure we lock our houses up. Leave some exterior lights on because it's that time of year where people want to come and pay your house a visit when you're not there. So please be sure to lock your valuables. Unless there's any questions for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Todd? Planning?
All right. We've had a relatively busy month. Just to update you, Arteza Village, the apartment complex across the street, did break ground this month. Did meet with them, had them make sure they installed all their silt fence, made them aware of their hours of operation. And so they're over there doing their work. They should have the site work completed by May of 2020, and then they'll roll right into their construction. And like I mentioned in the previous report, that they're 7 a.m. is the construction start time right now. Staff recently, myself, completed a week-long training on floodplain management in Rocky Mount. I'm also continuing to work with an engineer who is working with the folks, the owners of Sea Trail, for the addition of around 40 lots for single-family home development in the area of Crooked Gully and Clubhouse Road. I'm also working on a new stormwater friendly driveway handout that we hope to take before the ERC at their next meeting. Just providing more detailed information to the public, and also working on a UDO update that would we would require using more native species or drought-tolerant plants within the community for all required landscape requirements. And as I alluded to, the ERC did have their first meeting back in action. Pete Larkin was voted the chair, and they will be meeting at 10 a.m. on the third Wednesday of every month.
Question. Does all the new construction link up into our sewer system, or are some new houses going up that still have septic tanks and leach fields?
If it's in Brunswick County, from my understanding, everything we've permitted of late has been into the sewer system, with the exception of one permit in Sea Trail which Brunswick County, for whatever reason, did not extend a line and allowed them to install a new septic system.
If sewer is available, they have to hook up.
Correct.
If it is available.
Yeah.
So if they're putting a septic tank in a house, it's no sewer is available.
Correct. That's right. That's right.
Anything else for Todd?
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd. Dustin? Public Works?
Just like to add that we placed the bathroom back at the gazebo parking lot. They're back. We've actually installed some new speed limit signs on Crooked Gully and Sea Trail. And also I've started working on 1318, 1402 beach access also. Starting to do a complete rebuild on it.
Dustin, did you were able to buy any more signs for Keep Off the Dunes?
We can. I can look into that.
I'd like you to look into that, please. And
Okay.
also, the signs that are out there need to be
Raised.
dug
Raised.
out and raised.
Okay. Look into that.
Excuse me.
Is there anything else from Dustin?
No.
Thank you, Dustin.
No, thank you.
I'm next.
You are up again.
Yeah, I'm up again. Last meeting, council asked me to look into the 57 slate. 4 to 5 of those is be $6,700 for the 5 of those for that 444 Street. For 5 of those of the Merle, $400, that'd be $2,000 for that. And if we go with this 57 slate, we'll have to purchase the rake that's in the handout at $1,500. So we can hook onto the tractor and we'll be able to grade it, level out the rock.
I guess this is the rake we have to purchase.
Yes.
Or something similar.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, we're recommending that we just stick with how we're doing, wait for the ERC to come back with looking at this, and maybe approach this at budget time, instead of trying to make the experiment on 4th Street work right now, outside the confines of our current budget.
Yeah.
$8,700 for an experiment
Yeah.
is too much.
Well, there's also sort of downstream implications. If we do one street, it's likely that some of the other streets, if not all of the other streets on the island that are not paved, will want to do this thing. So we would kind of have to keep in mind what the cost of that would be,
Right.
and what kind of timeline when we make if we make a decision to jump on that.
Plus, there may be the also, I don't want slate roads argument, and,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Yeah.
I'd rather do a
Yeah.
little time to do some research on it, talk to the public a little bit,
Yeah.
get the numbers nailed down. Dustin's done a good job of getting all this put together, but we feel that it's probably better as a budget topic and let the ERC run with the
Right.
the benefits to the environment first, so that we can figure out if it is worth the cost of upgrading all the streets potentially.
Yeah, question. If we did put the type 57 slate down, what kind of implications would that have for the future if the people on one of those streets wanted to pave? Can you
would have
pave
to-
over it?
No, you
or-
can't pave over the rock. You have to take it up, or you have to bring in some type of ABC material and put over that. And build
ABC
it.
material?
Yeah,
What's-
it's a road base, it's DOT approved road base for paving.
If we did not have the type 57 slate down there, and the people wanted to build a road, wouldn't they still have to put some kind of base
Yeah,
down there?
you still have to put that ABC structural base down to help to bind it,
Okay.
to hold the asphalt together, yes.
So either way, they'd have to put the ABC base on it to do it?
Right.
Okay, but that's just, doesn't
Hiram,
necessarily help if you want to pave in the future.
Right.
Okay.
Hiram, this is a town road,
Yes, sir.
correct? Hypothetically, what if the taxpayers came and wanted to pave the road? What would the town's answer be?
It would be up to the council, but we'd have to do the same process that Kobe and North Shore did with the 51% of property owners on the street requesting the town pave it under the guarantee that they get assessed and they pay it back. It'd be no different than what we did with Cobia and North Shore, but it's still
Were they
y'all's-
also town roads?
Yes. But it's also be still y'all's decision whether we do move forward with it or not.
Okay.
Traditionally, in the
Anything else?
past, we've moved forward. So,
There's no reason not to pave it. Is there any environmental reason or water runoff reason not to pave it?
I'm not really qualified to answer that
All right,
directly.
that's fine. That's cool. No,
There's pros and cons always.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I understand that.
Thank you, Justin.
Are we good with just leaving it as it is and?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, next up is going to be the 2019 Sunset Sound Waves concert review. Hiram?
Yes, sir. In your packets, I've kind of broken things down for what we looked at when we were with the concerts this year. Overall, I think they were successful. You know, we used rough head counts. We didn't take official counts, but just using, you know, this group of people is that many, and then, you know, mathematically not accurately, we were averaged probably about 465 people, give or take, a concert, which I'd say for last minute put together, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. We had a few staff members on shift that show up, the fire department, the police department. We had a few staff members stay over to help coordinate traffic, which was a condition of us using the site. And Cindy Stevenson did a wonderful job helping coordinate the whole project. I've got all the costs broken down in here. I don't know if y'all, how deep you want me to go over all this, but you've had a chance to look over it. Overall, we came in under the $35,000 budget for the season. And that would, you know, if you want to even include the staff time that would have been overtime, it still came in under. I think that total was at $33,000. So $31,000 without the staff hours, $33,000 with it. Moving forward, you know, I would like to take this opportunity. We're getting calls every day, Cindy, from bands and other, you know, wanting to know if we're doing it, how many we're doing. You know, they're trying to get their next summer schedule set too. We paid about an average of $2,000 a band this time. Some were a little bit more expensive, some were less expensive. I think the most we paid was $2,500. The least we paid was 18,000. I mean 1,800. It's been a long day. So we're looking in that ballpark of the 2,000 figure, hopefully less for bands still.
Hiram, I only have a couple of questions. Are we attempting to recruit sponsors?
That's up to y'all. I'm not really sure how that would
All right.
work for
I mean,
us
we
financially.
got
being
plenty of time
being a
to deal with
government
that.
entity.
Yeah,
And we
and
can have Tara research that and work
Yeah.
that out later.
And secondly, are we going to be inviting the nonprofits for raffles so that they can make money?
That's up to y'all.
Okay, so there are still things that we can still.
There's still things that y'all can figure out, but basically what we're looking for tonight is how many concerts, if y'all want to repeat this again.
Yep.
B, how many y'all would like to have, and C, give me a date range. I've already put a date range in here with an expectancy of maybe 10 concerts. Doing mid-July to mid-August.
We actually started in June.
Mid-June.
I mean, mid-June to mid-August, sorry. Again, long day. But,
And we did 10 this year, right?
and we did 12 this year.
2 cancellations, right?
But ended up canceling twice, but we also started the last week of June. There's the opportunity to start earlier this time, but I'll remind y'all budgeted $35,000 this year, so that half of that is not a half and half kind of thing. Since we started so late last season, the majority of our expenditures were this past summer, so our startup expenditures are going to be less next summer. So I'm looking at mid-June as a decent start date to make the most out of what we've already allocated. And reminding people this comes out of accommodations tax, utilized for tourism and community events during the summer.
So what do you need us to do today? Authorize
I mean, you don't really have to authorize, but this is what I'm putting forward is, I need date range, number of concerts, and if you want to do this. And if you want us to come back to discuss further, like, in more details later, we can do that, but this gives us a chance to go ahead and start making those bookings and hopefully get a better price.
So do you need a motion?
Yeah.
Well,
But, I mean, if y'all want to keep discussing this, I mean, we're still.
there are a couple things
hang
we
on
ought
a
to
second.
discuss first, I think, if that's, could I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I think the 10 event dates that you set up are pretty good. And I would kind of suggest maybe keeping August 26th, which is not a scheduled date right now, as a rain date. If it works out and one of these cancellations happen early enough that we could reschedule them, if it happens, just to keep that happen. I would think, looking at the fees to come up with maybe something to get a few more vendors in. The figures you gave us looked like there were 13 vendors in those events total. $650 at $50 a pop.
Yeah, the first event would have had 3 vendors.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was just one.
Yeah, so I mean, coming up with some kind of incentive, say, a $25 event fee for all 10 events of the season, so a flat rate of $250. It'd be one incentive maybe to attract people to do this. And if they don't want to pay the whole thing, then go ahead, charge them $50 an event, and they just do several of them. But something, an incentive to bring the people in. I think Cindy just did an absolutely outstanding job on behalf of the town, and really deserves all the praise that we can put on top of her for that. I think it was a great thing. Like to see it happen again.
Yeah, she did a very good job.
Hiram, have we contacted the landowner to see if we could use that land?
Where we had it this time?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're chomping at the bit to figure out if we're going to do this again so that they know.
Okay.
But yeah, this, same price, which was $500 a week, which is still less expensive than we found renting a stage for every week. At this point, I mean, who knows at this early in the game, we could still try to reach out to stage companies right now and see if they can give us a better deal. But then we still have to find the location. And the feedback we've gotten was most people did prefer this location while we were talking to them during the events. There's always the possibility of, in the future, trying to do the park or something like that. But I think our second year, it's probably best to stick in the same location so that we can pretty much nail down our operations before we even think about trying to figure out something else where to host it. Let's streamline our process.
Yeah, I thought it was a good spot.
Were the times good? Start 6 to 8?
I don't remember much feedback on the times other than from the vendors. And
I thought the times were great, except for the last 2 concerts where they kind of ran into the late evening. But
Yeah.
they were in September
Yeah,
also,
and
which we're not going to do.
we'll be avoiding that and the
So-
mosquitoes.
Right. It gives people time who have to work to get off of work and get there.
I agree that we should start in the middle of June, carried through the end of August.
Right.
I'm good with that.
I am too.
I don't want to see any when it ends, when it's almost dark, because it was really hard to clean up afterwards.
And oddly enough, and I really can't thank the people who came to the concert enough for this, there wasn't that much trash.
No, there
People
wasn't.
did use the trash cans, and I'm very appreciative for that. The cleanup efforts went really smoothly. And we had plenty of volunteers to help out too that were not staff members that stayed behind to help clean up, so I can't thank them enough either.
Well, I think it's great for the town to do it again, so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I
So
thought it was
I'd
very
like to
good.
make a motion that the town continue the concerts. We go on the 10 event schedule. And keep the town, the timing at 6 to 8, and then other little details we can work out as you move through the planning for the season.
Second.
Second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll come back to y'all January, February with, try to hammer out some of those details and possible incentives for more vendors as well.
Okay, next up is the variance request for the town's dredging project permit approval. Councilwoman Harris.
Okay, yes. I was extremely pleased to see that we got an approved permit, even though it does have a condition. I believe that that permit gives each side of this issue something. Everybody got something, and no one side got everything they wanted. It's a great compromise. When we, at the October 7th meeting, I believe it was, that we talked about getting to the variance request, and a motion was made. I, at that meeting, initially did not vote, and there was discussion, and I said I did not want to say yes to something. I didn't know what I was saying yes to. And actually, that's what's turned out. I thought we were talking about a variance request in case they denied our permit. Anyway, this project is no deeper. It's exactly the same depth of every maintenance dredging project we've had in the past. It's the very same depth. This project has been expanded to include the Bay Area and some of South Jenks Creek, which some of the scientists do have concerns about, as do I to some degree, because I listen to that. However, they have limited that to 2 feet as well. So I would like to move that we do not go forward with the variance request. The variance request, let me just say that. The variance request is different from the appeal that's mentioned in the permit. They're different processes. What we're going for is a variance request that goes straight to the CRC. That can take up to 6 months to a year, according to the DCM's website page. And it's also going to cost us more money. Therefore, again, I make the motion that we do not proceed with this variance request.
Discussion?
No, we need a second first.
Gonna need a second.
I second the motion.
Now, discussion.
I'm sort of surprised by this response, particularly up here on the council. I mean, the variance component of this permitting process has been laid out clearly to us since the February 2018 meeting. Moffett and Nickel provided a briefing to us and explained that for the water quality issue, there would be an expectation of going through this variance process. And that was explained again numerous times in 2018, in 2019, and then on October 7th, the council voted 5-0 to instruct Moffett and Nickel to, quote, proceed in getting variance requests in the fastest way, unquote. I mean, the whole concept here has been understanding, if you dredge down to -2 feet, the likelihood of filling in is going to take place much quicker, and you're going to have to do this process again much sooner and continue to pay the expenses for that. Expenses that, as we have already gotten approval from the state to set up a tax dredging district, the maintenance expenses would be paid by the owners, and they'd be taxed year by year by year until it builds up enough that we need to pay for the subsequent maintenance dredging. One of the reasons that was justified or presented to us was by going down to the -5, we slow down the process of shoaling, of filling it in, and enable us to use it longer before we have to dredge a second time and pay the money again. So, I mean, it's not a surprise, and that actually has been what part of the plan has been, to take care of this. There's a number of other aspects that go on here, but the main thing is there's no surprise. This is what we told and what our plan is going to be, and this is what the council approved on October 7th, 2019, a month ago. So my view is we already gave Moffett and Nickel the marching orders to put in the permit.
That was before we had received an approved permit. We have an approved permit in our hand. We can start, I'm not finished. I'm not finished. We can start the dredging program right now. We can start it right now. Every dredging of the canals in the past, which has been out about 7 to 8 years apart, and it was supposed to be done again in 2010. It was done in 2002, has always been to minus 2 feet, 2 feet below mean low water. This project, this has this condition that we need to go for a variance is because we want to break a CAMA rule. The CAMA rule is there for a purpose. And all of the state agencies, by giving us this approval, the state agencies and the scientists of the state agencies have weighed in on this. And evidently they agree that going deeper can harm our precious estuaries. They have given us what is best in their estimation for this proposal. And I still maintain we should move forward with what we have. Do not waste time. Do not kick the can down the road again, and not go forward with a variance request.
October 7th vote.
Mike.
Use the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. The October 7th vote was, from my point of view, wasn't, I had some issues. But that's been changed. This is the permit. There's 31 conditions. However, you can add another one. If this permit, if we challenge the variance, I can assure you, if the CRC does approve it, which I don't think, my opinion, the probability is no. And the reason why I say that is, did you all read the cover letter from Mr. Bogner? The government doesn't say no. They have been telling us for 2 years. They've been putting barriers in front of us for 2 years. They removed North Jinks Creek. They're worried about South Jinks Creek. They're worried about the entire project. Read this letter. It's the closest thing that the government can say no. It's the closest letter. I don't know if you have it, but I have copies here for you. Read it. The other thing is, there's also the concern, and a realistic one, that if the CRC even did approve it, I can bet a coffee and a donut that the environmental groups will file a complaint and file a lawsuit against the CRC. Now, I don't know who pays for that. Is that a town expense? Is that a taxpayer expense? Who pays for that? Because the probability is that it's going to happen. Now, we've been at this for 5 years, and the reason for the delay for 5 years is me, okay? I accept that. I have been blamed for that. But for 5 years, the issue was Jinks Creek. Jinks Creek, whether it's north or south, is one creek, one tidal creek. The scientists don't want us to mess with it, the state doesn't want us to mess with it, and the federal government doesn't want us to mess with it. So why are we messing with it? Can I navigate my boat during low tide? No. Will dredging 5 feet below mean water? Will I be able to navigate during low tide? No. Fishermen wait till high tide. There is no difficulties to navigate during high tide. So, I support Ms. Harris's motion, and I hope the other members will finally stop kicking this can down the road as Ms. Harris expressed. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Charlie.
it's been kicked down the road because you've thrown roadblocks up. Your false allegations of conflict of interest. You can guarantee a lawsuit because Richard Hilderman stated there would be a federal lawsuit in one of his emails. And the threat of a lawsuit really doesn't bother me. It hadn't bothered any of the other ones that have brought legal expenses for the town. This is, I'm done.
Mr. Hildeman, is he in the audience? Dr. Hildeman's not here, but he has a right to defend himself. Mr. Hildeman came before this council and suggested 2 feet before. Janet Harris and I proposed that to listen to him and to see how it could save money. I don't know how much this will save us. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Neal has a better idea if we follow the camera regulation. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Neal does. But that is what Dr. Hildeman recommended. And the council refused even to listen to him. So it's 5 years and counting. Ain't gonna end.
I've got a question. Maybe Hiram, Mr. Neal. If we apply for the variance and we don't get it, we still have the permit. So we haven't lost a thing. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
We've
ma'am.
lost a year. We've lost a year and we've lost dollars.
We don't know how long it's going to take.
Well,
And we can always back out of it.
DCM,
I mean, we can't
on their
dredge.
website, they say it takes at least 6 months and possibly a year. If you go to their website and look up how the variance request procedures, you will see that they tell you up front that it will take at least 6 months and possibly a year. In that time, what do we do about our grant? What do we,
The grant's good for 2 years.
fine. But the grant is good for this right now too, to get it started and get it done.
Correct. But
Get
we're
it
not-
done.
As it stands right now, we're not going to be able to dredge till November 2020. Correct? So we have 6 months.
Hey, Rob, why don't you go up there so we have questions?
Real quick, I don't want to interrupt this too much real quick, but don't forget, it's not like we can start tomorrow. We got to go through the public hearing processes and everything that we laid out in the previous meetings. I know what you're meaning to say, but I don't want the public to get the wrong idea that we could do this month.
Well, no, I'm not saying that
I
at all.
know that's not what you're saying, but I just want to clarify for people that it'd still be early next year before we could get this ball rolling.
Understand, but It's still kicking the can down the road.
Right.
It's delaying. When we could move ahead right now and start getting all the questions answered that we need, get dredging lined up. We could start right now, but instead, we're kicking it down the road
Right,
again, again and again.
Robert, when's as soon as this project could start? How soon could this project start if we said yes to the no variance?
Assuming the funding was not an issue, February
Of 20?
2020. If we said go ahead and go, we could, it's a matter of, well, we need the core, we would need to work on the core permit. So the quickest would be February.
Yes.
The quickest would be February, but there would, probably more likely to be November of next year before things really, in a realistic world, it would be November of next year. The quickest, if the stars aligned, would be February.
And we can only go to April, right?
Excuse me?
We can only go to the 1st of April.
March 31st would be
March
the end.
31st, so there would be no sense in going in February.
We would not complete it in 1 year, no.
No. So we got November 2020.
Correct.
Yeah.
You would be, this project, regardless if it's fast-tracked or not, is probably, most likely gonna take 2 seasons anyway.
Have they limited the width of the canals to be dredged?
No,
Just the depth?
Yes.
That's the major issue, correct?
yes.
I have a question. I was told, and this was pointed out because of the grant, the canals, like the Four Finger Canals and the Feeder Canal, the canals that have been maintenance dredged before, previous dredging had the owners remove the docks and piers. This one does not. This one just goes down the middle of that canal, correct?
Yes.
And you're going down you're going to do how many feet? 20 feet?
We're staying
They're
away.
small canals.
Yes.
So you're going to go 5 feet deeper
We're
and
matching
do
the
it
previous permit.
narrower?
Let him finish. Let him give you the answer.
We're matching the previous permit footprint and depth.
But we are giving the homeowners an option to take their docks out at their
They-
expense.
They can remove the docks and negotiate their own dredging. The grant will not pay for dredging underneath private property.
Okay.
So the grant will not pay for.
But if a
dredging
homeowner
underneath
wants to pay,
docks.
they can pay for it.
They can negotiate their own deal if the council wishes to let them entertain that. But our, the
What-
construction
what-
contract
So
will not.
I have a question that follows up this conversation there. You said that we're following to the same footprint and the same depth.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so the question becomes, is the previous dredging at -2 feet or -5 feet?
The construction plans, which is what we used to design this project, were at, I believe, -5.27 for the feeder channel. We raised that to -5, and then in the fingernails, they were 4 and 3 feet, 4.27 and 3.27. The 2.7 is a matter of a datum correction, so mean low water to NAVD 88. So we're trying to stay as close as we can to that old permit to fast track the
Yeah.
resolution. Now, the permit and the construction drawings that were used, we followed those. What was actually done, I do not know, but we followed the records that were in place. We changed it minimal, but
But the point is, the previous dredging was not -2 feet.
Yes, it was.
the permit and the construction plans did not indicate -2.
Was.
So how do you know? I mean, he says the previous plans were there, and it was
It's
done.
got it in one of his reports that the 2002 maintenance dredging was -2 feet.
Could you
One
have
of your
misunderstood
reports.
that too?
Is that true, Robert?
I can provide the construction drawings, to town tomorrow. The feeder channel, we are going deeper, we are providing an over-depth tolerance, but my recollection is -5.27 for the feeder channel, and we're going to -5 with +1. So our maximum dredge depth will be -6, but the design is -5. Previously, it was -5.27. But that can confirm that tomorrow.
I have another question.
Go ahead, Jen.
If we go deeper, this permit grants going up to what I'm going to say is the mouth of Tubbs Inlet. The shorelines classification, beginning at Lot 2 in Palm Cove, is Ocean Erodible Hazard AEC, Area of Environmental Concern. The shoreline on back is classified estuarine shoreline. Estuarine shoreline allows hardening. Ocean Erodible AEC does not. Ocean Erodible AEC is the same classification as ocean front, and that's why I'm questioning, is that not the beginning of the inlet? And if we go deeper, do we know what the mean low water is at that point? And if we go deeper than that, will we experience problems with Tubbs Inlet, and will we, the town, will be required to maintain Tubbs Inlet? This town can't afford to maintain Tubbs Inlet. And if we go deeper than what that mean low water is, we stand a real chance of that.
Jan, real quick though, it says right here that it shall not go deeper in connecting waters. It says that right there.
That's why they've limited it to 2 feet. That's a rule. That is a rule. And that's another thing. The connecting waters, everybody compares us with Ocean Isle. Ocean Isle's canals connect directly to the intercoastal waterway. All of the barrier islands canals connect directly to the intercoastal waterway except Sunset Beach. Our canals connect to a naturally occurring salt marsh tidal creek.
To answer that question, Councilman Harris, if something happened to Tubbs Inlet and it migrated or something, it needed maintenance dredging, at any time the town can walk away and abandon this project. Any maintenance dredging would need the same type of authorization this initial project requires. So so at any time, if the town wished to walk away from it, they could. So to maintain it in an open condition, no. If this project was linked to some kind of forces that caused severe erosion on Ocean Isle Beach, yes, the town could be liable for that. If it caused some impacts to other private or municipal properties, but as far as maintaining Tubbs Inlet, no, it would not be.
Well, and the reason I asked that question is in 2002, property owners on Ocean Isle Beach submitted a permit application to dredge Old Sound Creek. And what the state put in that is that they would have to name, because it was property owners, not the town of Ocean Isle Beach, they would have to name the entity that would be responsible for future maintenance dredging, and they mentioned not just Old Sound Creek, but they mentioned Jinks Creek and Eastern Channel. I have that information right here in this book. So the state required those property owners to name the entity who would be responsible for that, should something go wrong. And it seems to me that we are already named Sunset Beach Town as the entity for this project.
Right, if something were to go wrong, then the town would be held liable. If it's just a matter of maintaining the project, could walk away at any time.
Also, in the 1980s, Ocean Isle Beach wanted to do a similar project, and the town of Sunset Beach objected and took it to the CRC, and the Sunset Beach town won.
Ocean Isle has submitted comments on this project, and their concern is, and only concern is that if this project were to provide, it's just that if it were to create erosion on Ocean Isle Beach, that we would, the town would.
We would be responsible.
And how would they determine that the dredging of our finger canals and the maintenance dredging of that area caused the erosion or other difficulties in Ocean Isle Beach? And how would they be able to distinguish that it was our dredging that did it, other than some other natural occurrence, like a major hurricane coming through here?
It would have to be significant concerns, a significant erosion that pointed directly toward
This,
our project.
this.
So it's a hypothetical if that
difficult-
you're
it's-
talking about right there.
it's
This
difficult.
project, this project has a condition on it put there by the state. We are asking with this variance request to break a CAMA regulation. The CAMA regulations are put there to protect those areas back there and to protect towns from such as this.
Robert, what's the cost savings if you just go 2 feet?
Oh,
Yeah, but
they're significant. For the initial construction, they are significant. I'm not sure I don't know what is back there to
So
dredge.
hypothetically, if we wanted to go back 2 years and do another 2 feet, with all that savings, we could do that.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Say that, the grant's $4 million, the project. If we say, well, it costs us $2 million, and, people say, you all say that, it's been 17 years, and then we have to find out if we dredged 5 feet or 2 feet, but 17 years it took this to fill in. Didn't come overnight. So I'm just saying, if we just do it at 2 feet and then can we save that money, the grant money, and put it in a fund for maintenance?
No.
No.
No, the grant's a reimbursement. We have to spend it to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
But that also, a comment there, that 2002 dredging, is easily recognized that by 2010 it needed to be done. And this dredging that we're talking about now, 9 to 10 years later, is just, the conditions are worse, the fill-in is worse, the shoaling is worse, and the impact on the area is worse. I mean, you can go out to, say, Lot 1 or Lot 2 now, and at low tide, not even just low tide, you can walk across into the marshland. 5 years ago, you could not do that. And that's because of the shoaling and the sand that's been coming in. We have gone through this process for 4 or 5 years, whatever it has to be. We've explained, or it's been answered here, that if we go in for the variance application, the delay would probably take us up into not being able to dredge till next November. If we don't go into the variance application, it will still be next November before we can start dredging, other than just doing a mobilization and starting to stir up some mud and then having to stop because it's March 31st. I mean, the point is somewhere along the line, the state and the CAMA and the other agencies have made that indication. This solution of doing a request for a variance didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It came up in, as I understand it, in discussions that you have had with the various people of what the solution is, how we can get the dredging done, particularly if we take North Jinks Creek off of the process. The idea of keeping North Jinks Creek was to have one depth minus 5 feet that took us all the way out to the intercoastal and would have avoided these issues. Then it was a dispute of, were we impacting the P&A? Were we affecting the oysters? When we took North Jinks Creek off of this project, we also eliminate the problem with mitigation of oysters, because down at T55 on your chart is T45 was the last line where you had any oysters. And the project ends at Riverside Drive, the area where the feeder canal goes into Jinks Creek, which is at your T55 line when you were testing for oysters. I mean, so that part comes out of there. And we still have to solve the problem of actually what we're going to do with the spoils and how we're going to handle all of those. You know, and that's not going to happen, in my guess, between now and February to start the contract.
Mr. Mayor.
So I think there's nothing to be lost by going in for that variance.
Go ahead, Jim.
The shoaling that Councilman Corbett mentions is actually Mother Nature's way of putting in a tidal flood delta. That's what Mother Nature is creating there in that inlet. There was a tidal flood delta in the old Tubbs Inlet before it was moved, and it was called Isle de Claudia, and that is where the first Kindred mailbox was. I can show you on aerial photographs that tidal flood delta. Mother Nature is going to do this over and over and over again, and dredging to 5 feet depth. The state knows what they're doing when they're saying we can't do that. They know. The state agencies have weighed in on it. The state scientists have talked to the people.
The way I have heard it is that they have said the alternate solution is apply for a variance that we will grant you so you can go ahead and do our dredging to the finger canals and maintenance area of the Bay Area and South Jinks Creek.
Robert,
And
have
not
the
touch
agency said
North
that,
Jinks Creek.
we could get this variance?
No, they have not said we could or could not get it. They refused to comment on it. If they don't support it, we won't get it. And by support, if they don't support the variance request, our path forward to dredge, to eliminate North Jinks Creek and just dredge the area that is proposed, if I believe if DMF or if any of the state agencies oppose the dredging of those areas to -5, then our likelihood of getting the variance is small. If they see, I understand the rule, but if they see a significant concern with our proposal to dredge -5 in those areas, I do not believe that the CRC will grant the variance with agency objection.
Would we be in jeopardy of losing the permit at that time?
No.
No. Permits are. I have one question for the council. Is there any appetite on the council to compromise between 2 and 5 feet? It seems like everybody's dug in on either 5 or 2. Is there any appetite to do 3.5 and apply for a variance for 3.5?
The state
Yes or
has
no?
spoken. No.
No.
And I would like to say,
Just
I would
wanted
like
to
to
throw it out
say
there.
that if they do grant this particular variance, then we are violating another CAMA rule for dredging. I have the CAMA rules right here, and you're welcome to read them. But the rule that we will be breaking will be under CAMA T1507H I 2 through 5. So,
And what does that say?
will you want me to read it?
Well, I'd like to know, we're violating a rule, but I
Yep,
mean, give
okay.
us the short version of what the
Okay,
rule is.
all right. However, when essential to maintain a traditional and established use, maintenance excavation may be approved if the applicant meets all of the following criteria. The applicant demonstrates and documents that a water-dependent need exists for the excavation. There exists a previously permitted channel that was constructed or maintained under permits issued by the state or federal government. If a natural channel was in use, or if a human-made channel was constructed before permitting was necessary, there shall be evidence that the channel was continuously used for a specific purpose. Excavated material can be removed and placed in a disposal area in accordance with Part B, 1B, blah, blah, of this rule, but without impacting adjacent nursery areas and sub-aquatic vegetation as defined by Marine Fisheries Commission. And 4, the original depth and width of a human-made or natural channel shall not be increased to allow a new or expanded use of the channel.
So, what it's saying is that we have to demonstrate that we've been using those waters for recreational boating since those waters have been available and people have been going there, for one.
You've got to
and-
demonstrate that you needed to go that deep.
Or you have to demonstrate that it was that deep sometime in the future. The fact that you could stand out there in the middle of it and have it over your head at one point in time and you can't do that anymore kind of shows that there's a change in the depth. But I think, if the state is going to give us a variance and allow us to do that, then they will have considered all of those things. And people who are much more expert than, I would argue, anybody in this room would have done the consideration. The point is, we have not, or we do not, lose anything by going through this process and trying to get the variance.
We lose time.
Mr. Mayor?
No, we've already demonstrated we don't lose time.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Jen.
I would like to call the question.
Jan, can I just finish something,
Sure.
please? The permit has 31 conditions. I would like to know the cost of each of those conditions. We don't know.
That's a delay in action.
Excavation, condition number 2. Excavation shall not exceed 2 feet below the mean low water. In no case shall the depth of excavation exceed the depth of the connecting waters. So why do we wish to do that? What is the purpose of doing it?
Because we want to dig deeper.
Why?
So that we can use the boats longer, for a longer period of time before we have to redo the maintenance dredging the second time.
Mr.
And a
Mayor?
third time, and a fourth time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to call the question.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Would you like to redo your motion, or?
No, I do not. My motion is on the floor. It has a second. I'm calling the question. What that means is I'm asking
Yeah.
for a vote.
All in favor?
All in favor of?
Yeah, whoa, 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 whoa.
Please
What was your
read-
motion then?
Please
You don't
repeat
know
the-
what it was?
repeat the motion,
Please read
please.
the motion.
Motion is to not move forward with the variance request with the CRC.
The motion is to not move forward with the variance request.
Okay.
You seconded.
I second it.
All in favor? of
Aye.
Aye.
All
Nay.
opposed?
Nay.
No.
Motion
Robert, question is.
passes 3-2.
Paul, I'm sorry, Mayor. Paul, real quick, if we want to address this issue 2 months from now, can we readdress it? Because dredging, nothing's going to be done until next year.
I believe so. I'll have to verify that. I don't know.
I was at these scope meetings, and the Army Corps of Engineers really did not like the fact that we're going 5 feet. They're the ones that spoke against it the loudest.
Use your mic,
Sorry.
please.
You know, when I was at scoping meetings, I felt that there's one agency, Army Corps of Engineers, did not want to go to that 5-foot depth.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Well,
He's asking a question. He can ask a question.
the federal, there are no
The
rules.
motion is passed.
I understand.
The Corps of Engineers wouldn't have a say. They don't, it's not their rule.
Okay.
So they don't.
I can't hear when the people out there are talking.
the Corps of Engineers would not have a, their say would be in their permit. So they don't have a say to the state permit. They don't, to my knowledge, they don't have a rule limiting the depth. So they don't, their concerns are not with that depth. That's not their concern.
Okay.
To my understanding.
All right. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Mr. Mayor, what was the vote?
3-2 in favor of Jan's motion,
Not to proceed with the variance.
not to proceed with the variance.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, new business request, UDO amendment fences in BR1. Todd.
Okay, we are requesting, or the planning board is requesting, that the council accept the planning board's recommendation to amend Article 7, Section 7.09B, which is an amendment to BR1 fences, which would prohibit fences along Main Street on oceanfront lots, or if you will, the rear of a lot. It was kind of an oversight, I guess, in the original text amendment. And then schedule the public hearing for December 2nd of 2019.
You need a motion to schedule a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
You need a motion to schedule a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to file a motion to schedule a public hearing, and I don't have my notes in front of me.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion?
How many homes are affected? I mean, do we have, and are they grandfathered in or not?
If there's a fence existing today, then yes, they would be grandfathered in. It would stop the installation of any additional fences.
It would be legally non-conforming.
Correct.
Grandfather is a bad term. Legally non-conforming. If something happened to that fence, they could put it back unless they tore it down themselves. Like if hurricane took the fence, those fences could go back to the existing time when they were erected.
Okay.
But I think it's only affecting like 4 or 5 houses.
So this just affects future fences?
Right.
After we do this?
The
Okay.
problem was, the oversight was, and Todd's alluded to this a little bit, but just for general knowledge, the rear yard for the BR1 zones is Main Street, not the ocean.
Right.
And we allow fences in the rear yard. So the loophole, it wasn't covered when the zone was created.
Okay.
The intent was not to have fences on the streets in our ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's why you hadn't left, huh?
That's right.
Next up, public hearing request, minimum house size text amendment. Todd?
This is another UDO amendment. In July of this year, the General Assembly for the state of North Carolina passed a new law that eliminated the municipalities, local governments from regulating minimum house sizes in their zoning ordinances, UDOs, what have you. So what you have before you is basically strike-throughs on all the minimum house size requirements that we have in our various zoning districts. And the same scenario, except planning board's recommendation. Let me just say, this is already in effect. We're already having to follow these guidelines. This is just cleaning up our ordinance to meet the state
So,
statutes.
do you need a motion?
We need a motion.
Todd, can I just ask you a quick question? The 35-foot height restriction still maintains?
Yes, yeah,
as is?
completely unrelated to this.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
I'd like to put a motion out for the minimum housing size text amendment.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're to the disposition of directives.
Y'all just added 2 for the 12-4 meeting, the 2 public hearings. And y'all have agreed to pull off number 1, Waste Industries.
Yeah, we don't need them here.
Right.
The beach patrol report is still on for the 19th of November?
Yes, sir.
And the ERC report is still on for the 12th?
I believe they can make that.
Okay.
Wait.
The first meeting of the
Yes, sir. And the, as was discussed at the ERC meeting, the report's just to update the council on the activities y'all plan to do moving forward. It's just an update on, Todd went over the initial part of it this evening earlier, that you elected your chairman. It's just activities to date and what you're gonna be working on moving forward.
The ERC report, initial report is 12/4,
Yeah,
December 4th.
December the 4th.
it's not an actual report of an item.
I got you.
It's more of an operational report of the committee, like all our other department reports, for those interested.
Okay. Next up is going to be public comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, please. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Carol Wells. My permanent address is 565 West Davis Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. My local address is 604 East Main Street. And during all this discussion on 2 feet or 5 feet, nothing was said about what you're going to do with that sand. Whether it be 2 feet or 5 feet, as a homeowner and as a professional engineer, I oppose placing any sand on the beach. I want to point out 2 other things in the comments that are in the permit that Mr. Serrato held up. Paraphrasing item number 14, any raised lands will belong to the state. This is a question that Ms. Harris brought up at a previous meeting. It is spelled out for you here. This means as a property owner, an oceanfront property owner, we will lose our littoral rights if you do this. That's something that's a coveted item, and I think you would feel threatened also if you were told that you would be losing any accretion that this beach may gain. My father-in-law built the 12th house on Sunset Beach in 1959. His lot was 150 feet when he built it. Today, it is over 450 feet. In addition, item number 11 on that same list, prior to the initiation of any beach fill activity on a specific property, easements or similar legal instruments shall be obtained from the impacted property owners. Not only are you affecting the property owners between 5th and 12th Street where you plan to deposit the sand, but you are also affecting every property owner from Tubbs Inlet to 12th Street, because the dredge pipe will lay on the dry sand, which is owned by those property owners. So I'd urge you, before you get to item 11 on that list, that you find a different place to put that soil. Mr. Neal has said there are other places to put the soil. On Sunset Beach, between 5th and 12th, or anywhere along that strand is not the place to put it. Thank you.
Ma'am, just so that you...
This is not a back and forth, Mr. Serrato. Follow the rules.
Right. We got
I'll
to stick
talk
to
to
the
you
rules.
after the meeting.
Stick to the rules.
Stick to the rules.
Stick to the rules.
I'll be
Is there
glad to.
anyone else, please? If there's no one else, this meeting's adjourned.